Introduction. Greetings, meatbags. Over the past 48 hours or so, Matty has been in a meltdown over his Antarctic fantasy.
Yes, indeed. It seems as if the walls of reality are finally making themselves known to our clueless crybaby. Naturally, he's responded in the traditional crybaby manner, crying about it. It all started when a person who works at the State Department sent him an email, very nicely stating that there were no expeditions heading to ASPA 172. They then suggested other destinations in Antarctica. The fool! This was their first mistake, trying to dissuade Matty from his stated destination. They sealed their fate by responding to a follow-up email within the hour, circa 11 p.m., where Matty lives, and right away he knew something was amiss. Why would this person respond at almost midnight? They must be watching him because no human working for the U.S. government could conceivably be up at almost midnight. Of course, that's ridiculous. From the employee merely being a night owl to being stationed in a place like New Zealand, there are many logical reasons why he received a speedy reply.
This is not so much damage control on his part as it is what I would call a coping ritual. A month or so ago, I told him the only way to make the logistics work was to charter his own ship, with helicopter. I also told him that the cost of such a venture would make him weep. Judging by the way his voice occasionally cracks and his storm of sour grapes conspiracy posts, I'd say there's a damn good chance that's what he actually did. Anyway, without further ado, I present Copy Matty.
Okay, so in this update, I'm going to lay out exactly what a fully private, fully sovereign, non-governmental expedition to the McMurdo Dry Valleys and ASPA 172 would actually require. I am not relying on any of the standard tour operators, Heritage, Quark, Scenic Atlas, Ocean-Wide Expeditions, or anyone else. Those companies have already shown they operate inside the same controlled system that has restricted easy private access since at least 2016. Even if one of them offers helicopter support in a future season, they are still gatekeepers. The only truly independent routes are 1. Full private vessel charter, the main realistic sovereign option. 2. Private charter jet directly to Phoenix Airfield, much more difficult. Okay, so the full private vessel charter route, to do this completely sovereignly, one would need to charter an entire ice-strength polar expedition vessel such as the Ortelius, Academic Sergei Valivov, I think it's called, or comparable IAATO class ship for the full Ross Sea itinerary. Arrange your own helicopter or helicopters for landing in the McMurdo Dry Valleys and ASPA 172. Handle all permitting yourself. DS4131 advance notification through the U.S. State Department. Initial environmental evaluation through the EPA and Antarctic Conservation Act compliance through the National Science Foundation. Provide a legitimate scientific purpose for entering ASPA 172, non-invasive observation of microbial ecosystems, iron oxide discharges at Blood Falls, etc. Realistic timeline and costs. Planning and securing the charter must begin 12 to 18 months in advance. Total cost for a 30 to 40 day Ross Sea expedition with helicopter support is in the range of $5 million to $8 million or more. This covers the full vessel charter, full fuel, crew, insurance, helicopters, permits, and logistics. This is not per person. This is the cost to charter the entire ship for the group. Additional costs for one's own scientific equipment, team, and insurance would be on top of that. This is the route that gives, one real independence, true control. So pretty much, through this route, we would control the dates, the itinerary, the helicopter landings, and the research objectives, and would not be dependent on a tour operator's schedule or restrictions. The private charter jet route to Phoenix Airfield is theoretically possible, but far more restricted. It would require explicit approval from the U.S. Antarctic Program and McMurdo Station, and the flight leg alone would cost $500,000 to over $1 million, plus all ground support. Even though the probability of funding a multi-million-dollar private charter right now is extremely low, I am documenting the exact process, costs, and requirements on the public ledger, so the full architecture of gatekeeping at the symbolic polar boundary is visible. The standard tour operators may offer services again in the next year or two or later, but they remain part of the controlled system. True sovereignty means bypassing them entirely and chartering the vessel and support directly. This update is not about false hope. It is about mapping the real sovereign path so the ledger remains complete and accurate.
Look at those eyes. Deep down, he knows he's never going to make it. Even if he found someone willing to donate that kind of money, he'd still be faced with the basic problem of getting approval to be at Blood Falls. It's a highly pristine environment. You can't just go up to the discharge in Arctic wear, munching on raw liver. Check out the bunny suit this person had to wear, just to take samples. Blood Falls is basically the closest thing you'll find to an outdoor clean room.
Which means a lot of gatekeeping to protect the pristine environment. Dum-dum.
Matthew, not only do you not have the right training to avoid contaminating the area, you don't have a clue about the level of science knowledge you need to actually study there. My sophomore year, high school, science teacher would have given your proposed objectives a D. She would have looked at them, taken out her red pen, and written 2 questions. First, how do you intend to study something buried under ice, non-invasively? Second, what do you actually plan to study? My college-level professors would have laughed at your objectives and then asked the same questions in a more sarcastic way. The NSF will look at your objectives, perhaps laugh amongst themselves, and then send you a form rejection letter. The bottom line is, there is a right way to conduct science, and your way does not match the way the NSF tries to do things. But just for shits and giggles, let's imagine you do get access to enough money to make the trip happen. However, you can't get approval to enter ASPA 172, and decide to go anyway. You forge up some documents to show the people who care, i.e. the boat and helicopter people, and head out to your so-called polar gateway.
I'll take it from here. The day finally arrives. There you are, looking at Ross Island, with the knowledge that a mere 60 or so miles beyond is your destination. 60 miles is nothing for the Eurocopter AS-350 you brought along. In less than an hour, you are going to be standing before Blood Falls. It's a pretty big deal, so you let yourself smile for the first time this decade. The pilot appears from an open gangway and greets you with a smile.
All ready to go, Mr. Weider. The boys are just putting the last of your things in now. Gotta say, it's a strange loadout for scientific research. But I'm stupid, so I'll just wait in the chopper and wonder why you don't want me to pick you up.
Realizing your intentions might have been given away, you hastily say you were only kidding. Instead, you tell him you'll be ready for pickup in about 2 days. You can barely contain the smirk, because you know he'll just be wasting his time. Your plan doesn't involve coming back. You're pushing through to the other side of the ice wall, where, according to your visions, you foresee heaven on earth. You can hardly wait to finally get laid. Thus you follow the pilot into the waiting sky chariot. As the turbine spools up and the engine comes to life, you feel a charge of energy yourself. They had laughed at you, made fun of you, called you crazy, And why? Because you found out the truth about existence. They just can't handle it. You wish they could be here too, just to see how right you have been this whole time. Flying over McMurdo Station, you look down and sneer. The gatekeepers can't stop you now, and that NSF water tank does look extra clean. Fake. You knew it all along. Another smile creeps across your lips, and hey, you've earned it. It stays firmly planted there until...
There it is, Taylor Dry Valley and Taylor Glacier. They must have really liked that Taylor guy.
This can't be right. You can clearly see that beyond the valley, to the south, is another fucking glacier, followed by ice as far as the eye can see. You'll never be able to walk that far. But it's okay. You suspected this might be the case, and the actual gateway could be the falls themselves. Pretty soon, a patch of rust becomes visible at the head of the glacier, and before you know it, you're standing in front of your destination, just as you imagined less than an hour ago. The road forward is clear. Gotta get into or under the glacier.
Geez, the guy at McMurdo sounded really pissed off that I ignored him like you told me to. Anyway, so, I'll see you in a couple days then.
The helicopter fades from sight, and you climb up to the face of the glacier. It takes roughly 40 minutes to do that after all. You're not exactly in peak physical condition. At first, you're very optimistic. There are indeed some very large cracks, large enough for a person to squeeze through. The optimism wanes over the next 15 minutes or so when you realize they don't actually lead anywhere. Then the glacier groans, and a new crack appears, from which rusty water flows like a brook. This is it. This is the way in. You're so close you can taste it, and it tastes like rusty water with a heavy dose of salt. Smells like it, too. However, the seep is only about the size of your arm, and no matter how much you try chipping away the ice, the flow rate just increases. Damn, it's cold! Suddenly you hear it. The distant sound of helicopter blades clawing through the air, and the sound is getting louder. You stumble back out of the crack and look for the intruder. Who could it be? The NSF, the idiot pilot, the military. Echoing throughout the valley, it's hard for you to determine exactly where it's coming from at first. Then you see it. It's another AS-350, and unlike the one you came in on, this chopper appears to be in a hurry. You're running out of time. They're coming. Time perception melts as you throw yourself back into the task of breaking through. Intense energy is spent in blow after blow of an ice axe, and the only reward so far is more incredibly cold water. Soon, well, at least what seems like soon, you start to go numb in the especially wet parts of your body. The strength just drains away, and each blow becomes lighter than the last. Maybe you just need yourself a little tiny nap. When you come to, you're in a hospital bed and you're handcuffed to it. Your forearms are missing, along with your nose. Demanding to know what has happened, a rather curt nurse tells you that you're lucky to be alive. Frostbite took your forearms, nose, and feet. Moreover, you're in deep trouble. The FBI is coming to get you, and that is never a good thing. Luckily for you, fucking up pristine wilderness isn't a hanging offense. So you're just looking at modest prison time and fines. However, living without a nose bothers you deeply for many reasons. Perhaps the biggest is how you'll be mistaken for a reptilian shapeshifter by all the other nutjobs for the rest of your life.
That's the real irony here. Even if he gets everything he wants and makes it to Blood Falls, reality will be waiting to rain on his parade, and consequences will follow.